beginning of the procurement life cycle. In closing, I believe reducing our exposure to current and future cyber threats will require both managerial discipline and policy flexibility. While the legislation I offer is not perfect, I believe it provides us a way forward to reducing our cyber risks across the government while instilling policy leadership on cybersecurity at the highest levels of our government. Once again, I welcome our panelists today, and I look forward to their testimony and their feedback. Okay. And at this point, I would like now to yield to our distinguished ranking minority member, Mr. Bill Burry of California.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, your opening statement was so well drafted and so comprehensive and so well delivered that I just ask for unanimous consent that my written statement be entered into the record.
Without objection.
And just quickly pointing out that this is quite an appropriate step that we move forward here. We're seeing that the cyber world is becoming not only a tool but an essential foundation for the federal government's ability to perform our constitutional responsibilities. Everything from now employment verification to we're looking at the taxation system. The IRS's ability to use it has just been a huge boom. The security of our at our ports of entry to our military applications to our healthcare service capability. All of these are going to expand extensively and should to be able to make sure the federal government is as effective and efficient and as cost effective as possible. Along with that, a great opportunity comes a huge threat. And I think that we'll find that what you're doing here today, if we do this right and follow through with this appropriately, we'll not only be defending those components that we see today, but be actually creating a vehicle that protects the future expansion, which are probably going to be tenfold of what we see today. So again, I appreciate the introduction of the bill. We will work at trying to improve it. Nothing is perfect, but we'll darn well do our best to make sure that we create this defense shield as strong as possible. And I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I now yield to Mr. Connolly.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And I would ask my full statement be entered into the record.
So moved.
I thank the Chair. Just if I can add one point, one of the concerns I've got among many is that we get the architecture, the managerial architecture of cybersecurity and information technology in general in the federal government right. The President, by executive order, has created a position of Chief Technology Officer, which I applaud. And I believe we have to, however, create a statutory framework for that position and the cybersecurity position as well. So making sure we understand moving forward in a statutory framework, beyond just an administrative framework, what those pieces are and what those responsibilities are and how the org chart works, I think is very important, given the resources we're going to be putting into these efforts. And so one of the things I certainly want to do, and I've introduced legislation, H.R. 1910. I have yet to hear from the administration on that bill, but I want to certainly incorporate elements of that into whatever we do by way of reauthorization of FISMA, and I intend to do just that. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. We now yield to Mr. Duncan for an opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman, and certainly this is a very important topic. The statistics are almost mind-boggling in spite of all the money that's being spent on this and all the efforts that are being made. The number of security incidents keeps going up. Our committee memorandum tells us that there were roughly 90,000 breaches in 2008, and that figure went to the figure that we have in our folder is 108,710 in 2009. It reminded me that several years ago as I was coming back from lunch in Knoxville one day, I heard on the CBS Radio National News in my car that the top secret files at the Pentagon had been broken into. It was something approximately 250,000 times that year, or 200,000 times, and that figure was matched a few months ago in this committee when we had the head of a company that said, just to show that they could do it, they downloaded 250,000 individual tax returns. So I have, because of all these things, I have begun to wonder if there really is such a thing as cybersecurity, or is it just something for companies to make money off of? And I would be very interested in the testimony. Unfortunately, because of previously scheduled appointments, I was only going to be able to be here from 2 until 2:45, and my 2:45 appointment is already here. So I apologize to the witnesses, but I can assure you that I will read your testimony and your responses to what I've just said with great interest, because I'm becoming more and more skeptical. It seems to me that something needs to be done, but are we pouring money down a rat hole? You know, it seems to me that we started out controlling the computers and now they control us, and I know that all the young people worship the computers, but this security business, I think people need to realize that anything that they put into a computer is just not secure at all, at least at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. And now that we have no further opening statements, it is the policy of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform to swear in all witnesses before they testify, and I'd like to ask all of you to stand and raise your right hands. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Let the record reflect that the witnesses answered an affirmative. I will now introduce our panelists. Mr. Vivek Gundra is the Chief Information Officer at the Office of Management and Budget, and Mr. Gundra was appointed as the first federal CIO of the United States by President Obama in March of 2009. In this capacity, he directs the policy and strategic planning of federal information technology investments and is responsible for oversight of federal technology spending. Prior to joining the Obama administration, Mr. Gundra served in the Mayor Fenty's cabinet as the Chief Technological Officer for the District of Columbia, and Governor Kane's cabinet as Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Technology for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Mr. Gary Gus Kasani is the Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Identity and Information Assurance at the Department of Defense. There, he is in charge with implementing DoD programs that require planning, monitoring, coordinating, and integration of information assurance across its component agencies. And Mr. Strawford is the Deputy Chief Information Officer for Information Security at the Department of State. He's responsible for providing oversight and guidance for information assurance activities, including security policy development, risk management, systems authorization, training and awareness, compliance reporting, and performance measures. Prior to his tenure at State, he served in various IT management roles as USAID, USDA, and the United States Navy. Mr. Gregory Wilshusen serves as the Director of Information Security Issues at GAO. His work involves examining federal information security practices and trends at federal agencies, and he is the GAO's leading expert on FISMA implementation. I'd like to welcome all of you, and I ask that each of the witnesses now give a brief summary of their testimony, and we'd like to have you keep this summary under 5 minutes in duration if you can, because your complete written statement will be included in the hearing record, and I'd like to please start with Mr. Kundra.
Great. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on the state of federal information security and the current challenges we face. Cybersecurity is a presidential priority, and across the administration, we're working on this issue. I work closely with the President's Cybersecurity Coordinator, Howard Schmidt, and the Federal Chief Technology Officer, Anish Chopra. 8 years ago, when FISMA was enacted, the mobile computing revolution and the internet were not as pervasive as they are today. Agencies are leveraging technologies and business models today that were not present at the time, from cloud computing to mobile platforms. These new models increase efficiency, but also leave agencies struggling with questions around how they apply FISMA's requirements in an environment where boundaries no longer determine security points. Agencies have made significant progress in complying with FISMA requirements, yet the federal government is still far from secure. The annual FISMA measures have led agencies to focus on a culture of compliance. However, we cannot get to security through compliance alone. Significant issues have hindered the federal government's effectiveness in cybersecurity, including a lack of coordination, a culture focused on compliance, a failure to take an enterprise approach, and a fragmented research and development agenda. To coordinate the many cybersecurity activities across the government, the President appointed Howard Schmidt. Mr. Schmidt serves as a key member of the President's national security staff while working in tandem with the private sector on cybersecurity. Additionally, the Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the White House and various stakeholders from government and industry, is developing a national cyber incident response plan. This plan will focus on outlining key roles and responsibilities across the nation, linking all levels of government and the private sector. In 2009, we began shifting agencies to a culture that would focus more on performance and less on compliance. Last October, OMB launched Cyberscope, a platform which collects performance metrics enabling meaningful analysis of the agency's security posture. Since metrics are policy statements that influence how agencies deploy resources, OMB established a task force to develop performance-based security metrics. This work resulted in a 3-tiered approach that will be implemented through Cyberscope: data feeds, security posture questions, and making sure that we're specifically focusing on the risks at specific agencies, from Health and Human Services to the Department of Defense to the State Department, which have very different missions and risk profiles. This approach will provide essential information about agency security postures, activities, and threats. It should also drive agencies towards continuous monitoring of security-related information across their organizations. It is necessary to take an enterprise approach to cybersecurity. That is why we're leveraging government-wide vehicles to enable agencies to purchase security tools efficiently. To energize the nation's research and development efforts, the administration is encouraging innovation in game-changing technologies to shift the advantage from the attacker to the defender. These activities include efforts such as the National Cyber Leap Year and the National Research and Development Summit we just did. The creation of a group designed to look at the financial services sector and create a test bed where we could model scenarios that we need to defend against. And also the establishment of an industry, academia, and government working group to explore cybersecurity insurance as a market force to improve security across the board. Security is a journey, not a destination. We are moving forward. For example, the government has won praise for the work done to contain Conficker. A representative of the Conficker Working Group, an independent group of private sector companies focused on defeating the Conficker worm, said, "For the first time, the government is taking a lead in a technical security issue rather than lagging." This is where we want to be. Unfortunately, the State Department spent $133 million over the last 6 years on paperwork compliance. But under the leadership of John, they've made significant changes to how they approach this problem. But what we really need to do is not file paperwork in metal cabinets. Instead, we should shift to constantly testing for weaknesses. That is why the President's 2011 budget provides funding for red teams and blue teams to conduct penetration testing on federal systems. A secure, trusted computing environment in the federal government is the responsibility of everyone involved: agency heads, the federal workforce, and contractors who support us. This will not be easy, nor will it take place overnight. Together with the cybersecurity coordinator, Howard Schmidt, and the Chief Technology Officer, Anish Chopra, we continue to address challenges that face our nation in cyberspace. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kundra. Now, Mr. Kasani. You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Watson, Congressman Bilbray, and members of the Government Management Organization and Procurement Subcommittee. My name is Gus Gisani, and I represent the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Networks and Information Integration and the Department of Defense Chief Information Officer. I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before the subcommittee to discuss issues related to government-wide information security, the Department's efforts to comply with FISMA mandates, and initiatives to enhance the nation's cybersecurity.
Would you move that mic, please, right in front of you and closer? Thank you.
Is that better?
Catch every morsel.
Okay. Yes, sir. All right. Cybersecurity is and has been a critical priority for the Department of Defense. Our information systems, which are globally distributed and connected to coalition and interagency partners, are essential to our DoD missions. Therefore, we must have a robust, assured enterprise network. In concert with the administration's government-wide information security objectives, we support a focus on continuous monitoring and the use of real-world penetration testing to ensure a robust security posture. However, the DoD policy of conducting stringent security testing prior to an authorization to operate remains a critical element of information assurance. The Department has found FISMA in its current form to have significant strengths in improving cybersecurity, and would point out that any deficiencies in implementations are not, in and of themselves, sufficient justification for major change or reform. One construct that the Department believes is valuable in the current statute and should be retained is the current organizational relationship between the agency Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, and the agency CIO. A CISO cannot effectively function if separated organizationally from the CIO and the operational activity being protected. I would now like to highlight some DoD initiatives taken to secure our systems within the framework of current FISMA legislation. The Department has been working to develop information assurance metrics at the strategic and operational levels, both within the Department and the broader federal community. As we seek metrics which provide our leadership decision-making insight, we are working towards a capability to accomplish risk scoring and prioritize vulnerability remediation based on actual threat activity to enable a more active and flexible defense. The Department is also implementing a series of initiatives aligned to our DoD information assurance strategy, with several accelerated in FY09 by the Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative. For example, we are deploying a host-based security solution for continuous monitoring and protection against threats. We are hardening our unclassified network by improving censoring, filtering, and access control at our internet access points or gateways, thus limiting exposure of critical information. By changing our access control technologies and methodologies to ensure that only our public-facing servers are accessible from the internet, we have reduced this attack surface by 96%. We have expanded cooperation with our defense industrial base to protect unclassified defense-related research, development, and procurement information, and we are also working with the Department of Homeland Security to develop a multi-pronged approach for managing supply chain risks arising from the globalization of the information and communications technology marketplace. A skilled cyber workforce is the most critical component of our defense against cyber adversaries. Therefore, the Department is continuing to raise the bar through our Workforce Improvement Program, expand our IA range capability, and ensure quality training is available to our workforce. Additionally, the 106 National Centers of Academic Excellence in IA Education are producing graduates with the right skills to become a world-class cyber workforce. I would like to conclude by emphasizing that we continue to work towards a resilient and defendable enterprise network for the Department and the nation. We are accomplishing this through collaboration with other federal agencies to resolve security issues impacting government-wide shared services and infrastructure. The DoD-CIO is managing a diverse portfolio to enable worldwide operations supporting over 2.5 million users and is aggressively working to get ahead of the daunting global security challenge. I am happy to take your questions.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Swofford, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Watson, Ranking Member Bilbray, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. I'm pleased to have this opportunity to testify before the subcommittee regarding the Department of State's capabilities for securing its global information and technology infrastructure. The Department serves as the diplomatic front line on over 270 overseas posts by serving its 70,000 users with a worldwide network and mission-essential software applications. The foreign policy mission makes an inviting target for attack by highly skilled cyber adversaries. However, the Department's layered approach to risk management allows multiple levels of protection. This protection is accomplished by implementing a matrix of technical, operational, and management security controls designed to thwart network threats, detect and mitigate vulnerabilities, and strengthen business operations. In my role as the Chief Information Security Officer, I have become familiar with the benefits, shortcomings, and promising opportunities to build upon the current Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002. Our goal is to ensure system security for diplomacy while continuously improving the return on investment for each dollar spent on cybersecurity. The passage of the FISMA Act in 2002 served as a game-changing event for the federal agency community. FISMA applies to all information used by or on behalf of the federal department or agency. In this respect, the establishment of a holistic information security program and the responsibility of accounting to oversight entities, including Congress, served as a valuable check in determining the health of an agency's information security program. The federal cybersecurity landscape has changed over the past 5 years. The implementation of a federal cybersecurity program has typically been implemented in past years through manual processes and compliance checks, which have competed with the need to implement Web 2.0 technologies in a secure manner, just to name one among many. Meanwhile, our cyber problems have dramatically escalated in severity and frequency. Since 2008, the number of security-related trouble tickets opened in our organization has more than doubled, while malicious code attacks has increased by 47%. In October 2009, OMB launched Cyberscope, a secure data collection platform for reporting, and formed an interagency task force charged with developing metrics for information security. Important to our efforts, the National Institute of Standards introduced Special Publication 800-37 and an update to increase the emphasis on continuous monitoring. Of special note, the Department of State began supplementing FISMA compliance reports and studies with a risk scoring program, scanning every computer and server connected to its network, not less than every 36 hours on 8 factors, and twice a month for safe configurations of software. The risk scoring program utilizes best practices such as the consensus audit guidelines, which we have mapped against the way the department is being attacked. The department utilizes the Common Vulnerability Scoring System from NIST, where scanning tools tag specific risks with point values between 0 and 10, with 10 being the highest vulnerability. When the problem is resolved, risk points are deducted. To this point, the State Department risk scoring program has implemented a subset of the consensus audit guideline controls that are adaptable to automated verification. In the first year of site scoring, ending July 2009, overall risk on the department's key unclassified network measured by the risk scoring program was reduced by nearly 90% in overseas sites and 89% in domestic sites. Scores have been relatively stable since then. Notwithstanding this reduction to date, the department has decided to make it 3 times more difficult to achieve the same letter grades as part of an ongoing commitment to continuous improvement of this kind in the future. These methods, however limited, have allowed one critical piece of the department's information security program to move from a snapshot in time, previously available under FISMA, to a program that scans for weaknesses on servers and personal computers continuously, identifies weak configurations each 15 days, issues letter grades monthly to senior managers tracking the progress for their organization in closing against known vulnerabilities the last 30 days. It is the department's objective to expand automated verification to as many consensus audit guideline control categories as possible, to all infrastructure and applications soon as possible, limited only by available resources. In short, the details of this program empower administrators of our systems with targeted daily attention to conduct remediation, and the summaries empower executives to oversee the most serious problems. The balance of my statement references additional layers of control, including a 24/7 network watch program, close coordination with incident management at U.S. CERT, implementation of Einstein 2 for situational awareness, important emphasis on cyber threat analysis, which we share with other members of the foreign affairs community, a global security scanning program, a cybersecurity incident program to assure that our employees do not commit acts of cyber misuse or abuse, a awareness training program that we conduct not only for ourselves but for other members of the federal government under the information security line of business. I want to conclude by emphasizing the department's policy, technology, business processes, and partnerships in place continue to evolve and meet the ongoing challenges of security threats in the cyber environment. I would like to thank the subcommittee members for this opportunity to speak before you today, and I would be pleased to respond to any of your questions.
One of the things I wanted to follow up with you before we got to questions, I understand that you are considering a kind of ambassador post within the department to oversee this. You might want to just speak on it for half a minute before we go on.
Yes, ma'am. My immediate responsibilities have to do with the internal networks of the Department of State, but I would be happy to forward any questions that you would have about that legislation to those in our organization that deal with foreign policy aspects of the cybersecurity.
Why don't you just give us a summary of what you've already been considering, and that would be information for us. You know.
I'm sorry, I don't have that information available.
No, I mean, you can send it to us.
Just send it to you?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I would be happy to, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Wilsholson, and we're going to take your testimony, and then we're going to recess for about 25 minutes to a half hour. We have 4 to 5 votes on the floor. Thank you.
Chairwoman Watson, Ranking Member Bilbray, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity today to participate in the hearing on federal information.
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, I
Move
don't believe the
right
mic
in
is
front
on.
of you, please.
Is that
and be
better?
sure it's on.
Oh, it's on.
Okay.
The green light's illuminated.
Direct it right to
Is
you.
this better? Okay.
Washington, the green light may not be.
Pull it forward.
Hello?
Yeah, so you can do it. Thank
okay,
you.
Can you. Okay. Chairwoman Watson, Ranking Member Bilbray, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to participate in today's hearing on federal information security. As we have previously testified, cyber-based threats to federal systems and critical infrastructure are evolving and growing. Pervasive and sustained cyber attacks continue to pose a potentially devastating threat to the systems and operations of the federal government. Over the past few years, agencies have experienced an increasing number and a wide range of incidents involving data loss or theft, computer intrusions, and privacy breaches, underscoring the need for improved security practices and controls. While much progress has been made in identifying and implementing these controls, much work remains. Madam Chair, today I will discuss federal agencies' efforts to secure their information systems and opportunities to enhance federal cybersecurity. For fiscal year 2009, agencies have reported mixed progress in securing their systems and implementing key security activities. For example, although agencies collectively reported providing security awareness training and specialized security training to an increasing percentage of their personnel, they also reported testing the security controls and contingency plans for a decreasing percentage of their systems. In addition, federal systems continue to be afflicted by persistent control weaknesses. Most of the 24 major agencies in our review had weaknesses in security safeguards that are intended to control logical and physical access to IT resources, manage the secure configurations of those resources, and ensure the prompt recovery of service and the continuity of operations should unexpected incidents occur. To illustrate, 21 of 24 major agencies noted inadequate controls over their financial systems were either of significant deficiency or material weakness. An underlying cause for these weaknesses is that agencies have not yet fully or effectively implemented key elements of their information security programs as required by FISMA. As a result, they remain vulnerable to the unauthorized disclosure and modification of sensitive information and the disruption of mission-critical operations. Fortunately, opportunities exist to enhance federal cybersecurity. Agencies can implement the hundreds of recommendations that GAO and agency IGs have made to resolve specific control deficiencies and program shortfalls. Agencies can also expand use of automated tools to perform security functions and increase their efficiency in securing and monitoring networks. These actions will help agencies to better manage the configuration of security features and to prevent, limit, and detect unauthorized access to networks and systems. In addition, as we have previously recommended, OMB and the work group it has convened should develop a balanced set of performance measures that focus on risk and produce better information to gauge the status and effectiveness of security efforts. The effective implementation of several government-wide initiatives can also lead to improved cybersecurity. For example, addressing several challenges we've identified associated with implementing the Comprehensive National Cybersecurity Initiative, which is a collection of 12 projects intended to bolster security on federal networks, will enhance its chances of success. Another opportunity is implementing the Trusted Internet Connections, Einstein, and Federal Desktop Core Configuration initiatives. These initiatives are intended to consolidate and secure external access points, including those to the Internet, provide network intrusion detection capability, and establish secure configurations for Windows-based workstations. We have ongoing work that address the status and implementation of these initiatives. Finally, opportunities exist to strengthen federal guidance and the national strategy for cybersecurity. In panel discussions that we hosted, cybersecurity experts identified 12 key improvements that are essential in their view to improving the strategy and our national cybersecurity posture. Consistent with our prior work, implementing these improvements can bolster security of our nation's most critical federal and private sector cyber infrastructure. In summary, federal agencies continue to tread water in securing their systems and countering the growing and evolving cyber threat. Nevertheless, opportunities exist to improve cybersecurity, but they require a concerted response to ensure that federal systems are sufficiently safeguarded. Madam Chair, this concludes my statement. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so very much, panel. And we'll recess now till about 3:45, and we'll see you back here for questions and then panel 2. Thank you so very much.